Hey, this is Danny with Longevity for the Long Haul. Today we're going to be talking about the Whoop and how it has impacted my recovery and just the whole story behind why I believe it's an important tool in your own recovery. So today, in the Whoop sphere, I am a red. So my red days are accompanied by symptoms of my long COVID. And so I'm going to be doing my best to articulate exactly what I want you guys to remember. When I first got sick in September 28th, 2020, my heart rate lived in the 120s and 100s sometimes, even in my sleep. And so I was unable to sleep, and it was only March of 2021 that I actually had a normal heart rate for the first time. And I was using an Apple Watch, and the Apple Watch would basically alert me when my heart rate was too high and I just needed to literally stop moving in order to prevent, having other complications. And it would be just me walking to the kitchen or something simple, like just standing, it was all so hard and difficult. So that was when I lived in my old house, which people don't really realize why I moved from my old house. It was because I would get lost in my own house, and it was very familiar and it was very scary that I didn't know where I was, what I was doing. And so I had to let that go. And so we moved into a new neighborhood that was close by. And usually I have more composure, but today it's just I'm dealing with a lot. But I'm going to muscle through because I don't identify with my symptoms. We moved into a new neighborhood, and my son Wyatt became friends with somebody in our neighborhood, and he would probably describe his friend's father as like an elite athlete. He calls him a Ryder Cup legend. And his son and my son, they kind of are two birds of a feather that flock together. And at this point in my journey, I was just surviving and figuring out how to still take part in my own life. So his dad is Ian Poulter, and it was a pivotal moment whenever I was talking to him, because I was just bringing his son home, and I was like, what is that? And then he was wearing the Whoop, and then I had told him how I was using my Apple Watch, and he goes, oh, and he told me everything about the Whoop, and I was just like, whoa, hold on. This keeps track of everything from your sleep. I didn't even know what an HRV was at that point. I was only looking at my elevated heart rate to kind of stop myself from getting into dangerous territory. With my clinical background and everything that I had documented from that point forward, literally nothing helped me manage my symptoms. This April 19th, I will have collected 2 years of data on the Whoop. And the Whoop basically was created for elite athletes, the Lamborghinis of us all, right? And I am just a common sedan. Actually, I'm a jalopy because I can't go anywhere. I'm kind of sitting on the side of the road at this point in my life. So with the Whoop, I began paying attention to my recovery levels, and then over time I kind of studied myself, and then I found that the Whoop would always tell me what my recovery score was, and it would always give me a recommended strain level that was created for those elite athletes. And so I just started studying it and paying attention to the trends that could get me into a green in a recovery state. Over time, I figured out that if I only kind of hung around between 60% and 70% of their recommended strain, then I had a higher recovery score the next day. So life happens with long COVID. You don't have control over the things that happen, and you really can't explain to someone else like what's happening to you. And this device actually was the first time I could show somebody like, hey, this is what I'm working with today. And I could say, I'm a red, I'm a yellow, I'm a green. Okay. But I don't be like, oh, I'm a red today, I can't do anything today. It's no, I'm a red today, and I'm going to do the things that I've studied over time that work for me, that get me into a higher recovery state. We all get all this feedback about try this, try that, try this, try that. This is what's going to work for you. Eat that, go there, do this. All of that just only triggers more inflammation. So with my clinical background, like that 60 to 70% is relevant. And why is it relevant? It's because our basal metabolic rate, okay, that's the general housekeeping that goes on every day for you to function, to, pee, poop, think, walk, all those things, the things that your body has to do to maintain like homeostasis and just, take care of yourself, right? When I put the two together, like I just recently realized this. I want to show you this book. It's, I think it's a great book. The author is Sarah Myhill, and I hope I'm saying that correctly. And it's a book about chronic fatigue syndrome and myalgic encephalitis. I just killed that word, so sorry. With the Whoop, okay, it gives you feedback to let you know like where you are at with your day. So today, you can see that I'm a red. I have a 31% recovery. My recommended strain for today is 5.3 to 9.3. All I've done today was get dressed, get ready, got my kids off to school, and I've already used up 6.3 of my strain. And my target for the day is 7.3. So, and it's 11 o'clock. And there's a lot more living that needs to happen before the end of the day. So, what do I do on a red day? On a red day, that means I'm going to tell people no. I'm going to have really clear boundaries. I'm not really going to even dig deep into why I'm saying no. And so like today, I'll make sure I'm not sponsored by anybody, by the way. I'm going to make sure I do 2 athletic greens. So I did one already today, and I'll do one later on tonight. And that, again, in the future, I'll be talking about the importance of your gut health and finding something that's simple for you that can give you the support with vitamins and minerals and everything. And again, this is something that I've learned over time, partnered with my Whoop, about what works for me. Is about creating, like the Whoop itself is about creating your own evidence about your own illness and about your own recovery. People can argue with you about a lot of things, but biometrics over time and those patterns, you can't really argue with that. And you just use that information to the best of your ability to make really good choices moving forward. Because the Whoop makes an invisible illness visible. And I know there's all kinds of other devices out there. I tried using the Garmin, and it's not that great. I mean, when I help other people who have different devices like the Oura Ring or the Apple Watch, or there's other things that are out there, but I tried to figure out how can I interpret their results, and then how can I help them make better decisions based on that their objective data. I can't work with that because they don't measure the right metrics and the it's just so much harder. But the Whoop is easy. It's not meant for me, but it is meant for me because it pays attention to the little minutia that gives, elite athletes that advantage to be the best in their sport. Like, it's proven time and time again. You can look and see people giving interviews and they're wearing a Whoop, So thank you, Ian Poulter, for introducing me to the Whoop. So I wore my Whoop throughout all of my treatment. So I documented everything from April 19th, 2022. So April 19th, 2022 was the first day that I wore my Whoop. And the evidence that was shown at that time is how I wasn't energy efficient. So, number one, I couldn't create energy. I couldn't use my energy. There was so much that I didn't know at that point. And just by trying to live up to everyone's expectations of me back then, I was only creating more inflammation, more chaos, and producing more and more debilitating symptoms. There are several elements that I'll discuss moving forward, and I apologize for speaking slow because when I first had COVID, it was really difficult for me to talk. And so when I am having a hard day, it is harder for me to kind of articulate efficiently what I mean. So please bear with me. When I wake up in the morning, I see that I'm a green, a yellow, or a red. And on the red days, those days are self-care. And on the yellow days, it's structure and function. And on the green days, that's when I focus on my Zone 2 training. And I'm going to bring somebody in to start talking about Zone 2 training and what it is. And then why on my green days did I make that the priority. But in short, I focused on Zone 2 training because it improved my metabolic function. So talk about making money. Zone 2 is the way to go when you are trying to make money. When I talk to people about where they're at and what's happening, the Whoop basically allows me to look at their overall health, their quality of sleep. I get to set up their questionnaire with them, and I don't use the questionnaire the same way the elite athletes would, because you can do that, like get super nitty gritty deep into the details, but I don't. I set up that journal to remind them of healthy habits that have a positive impact on their recovery level. So I can't even remember right now. This is what it's like having long COVID. Like, if you've seen my previous episodes, like, I could do so much. So I'm okay with like this episode showing like how difficult it is for me to communicate. But one of the other things that and that I want to talk about the Whoop is that it's the trends over time. So many people get caught up in the experience of long COVID and they're like, good day, bad day, good day, bad day. And that's such a limited scope of what's actually going on. So I look and I teach people it's the trends over time. So when I started with the Whoop, my average HRV was like 26. And I've been wearing it for 2 years. And now my average HRV is 50. So the me before COVID, my HRV probably would have been like, 50 to 60, because I had a high performance life. I was doing so many different things. And then I experienced this injury systemically to my whole body. And then when I tried to do the things that I used to do, I couldn't. And then when I'm trying to do those things and I exceeded the recommended strain level, right, I would trigger inflammation. Because some people would be like, okay, well, you need to sleep this many hours. Well, what if I did sleep 8 hours, but my heart rate was 100 the entire time while I slept? I didn't recover at all. And what if you eat this? What if you take this supplement? But all of that, and everybody's doing this out of the kindness of their heart, trying to help, trying to solve the problem. None of that actually helped at all. It actually made things worse because it just reinforced a sense of hopelessness that I experienced because one, people who didn't believe I was sick, and then two, people didn't believe I was trying hard enough. And then nobody understood like the biology of what happened to me. And so I want to get back to talking about the Whoop and how I use it with the red, yellow, and green lights. It's kind of like an engine light on your car. And Sarah Myhill made a very great comparison to our bodies. And I love this book because I discovered most of what I've learned through my treatment at the NIH, Mayo, and Aviv. And her comparison basically spot on described what I actually figured out on my own. So she said, consider this. Okay. Think of your body as a car. Your engine is your mitochondria. That is the powerhouse of the cell. And what we know about COVID is it hijacks the mitochondria and then it embeds into your cells and then it reproduces. And then anytime you have a viral infection, it lies dormant in your body for the rest of your life. And then when you become immunocompromised, it rears its ugly head, and then you struggle with symptoms. Your fuel is your diet and your gut function. The oxygen, like the combustion of your engine, is in your lungs. Your fuel and oxygen delivery system is your heart and your circulation. Your gas pedal is like your thyroid gland. Your gearbox is your adrenals. Your service and repair, that is your sleep. And your toolkit is like your methylation cycle. The methylation cycle is what I was talking about with that zone 2. So like as we keep digging deep and learning more about the disease process and our body and how to use it the way it was created, all of this will make sense. The cleaning part of is like the antioxidants, it's the vitamins, the minerals, nutrients. Your catalytic converter is detoxification, and the driver is your brain. You don't realize how much energy is used up by your brain. I think it I don't know the exact number right now, but I know it consumes a lot. And just to even think about the fact that 60% of the energy you wake up with will go to supporting just your basic body functions. So anything you want to do outside of that revolves around working, living, your goals, your dreams, your emotions, your, just the experience of living, that is packed into that other third of energy production that you need to create. And I love also another comparison that she made, like in comparing our body. Like if you did an MRI of a car, you would not see anything wrong with the car. You'd be like, okay, there's the tires, there's the engine, you would see all the anatomy of the car, but you want to understand, why doesn't it work? Like why can't you just turn on the key and go? Why can't you put the brakes on and stop? And it's because it has to do with the fuel system. It has to do with how the different pieces and parts of the car work together to function. And so don't take it personal because you got a viral illness. And in this situation, like ME/CFS isn't like only for people with long COVID. I tell people I have a rebranded retroviral disease. People don't even want to talk about, or they don't even think about what a retroviral disease is, but they know what it is. HIV is a retroviral disease that was managed because the percentage of the population that was affected were men, and it was literally their favorite thing to do. So, of course, people are going to dig deep on issues that revolve around men and whatever they want to do. I'm just telling the truth. You know what I mean? Because women's health, again, is one of those things that it kind of goes on the back burner. And the Whoop is just the perfect tool. And it wasn't made for me, but I use it in a different way than they intended it for it to be used. And when you use something that can create objective data and objective information, then you can really start making really good decisions. You can start to look into like how other people impact you. Like I can look at my Whoop and know on the days that I had to have difficult conversations or the days that I couldn't say no. Like, why am I red today, right? I haven't had a red day in 50 days. But I'll tell you, yesterday, a lot of things happened that were like out of my control. And I also exceeded like what I would consider my recommended strain level. So I kind of knew I had an idea of what it was going to be like today. And I was hoping, because I'm trying to get to 100 days without a red day, but it's not something you can really control. It's just something you can measure, and then you can make better decisions every day to improve your overall function tomorrow. And so I think the Whoop is a gift. And if you know how to use it properly and you take your time and understanding the significance of the different measurements that they use, and you can just take a step back and not feel so responsible for your dysfunction. I did want to remember to mention this very important part of the process. When people are like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do this? I was this way before and I'm this way now. There's a very important part of our illness that a lot of people are not aware of, but they experience it like every day. And so our fatigue is a very, very important sign. That's what our body basically waving a white flag, letting us know that it's used up all the energy that it has in that moment. And if you keep pushing, you are going to start creating cellular injury, and you are going to trigger inflammation, and you're going to be writing a check you can't cash. So you can't ignore your fatigue. You have to pay attention to your fatigue. And why are you fatigued? And why hasn't anyone told you this before? But the fatigue, it gets back to the metabolic function and our cells. And so we have a number of healthy cells that we produce, and we have what they term like zombie cells or senescent cells. And those cells are kind of embedded with a piece of the virus, right? And they don't function the same, right? They actually impact the healthy cells around them. And so in Longevity for the Long Haul, I'm going to talk about all those things that universally improve your metabolic function. So what is the mechanism of action as to why you're fatigued. And so when we're healthy and we don't have this burden, when our cell goes to create energy and use energy, we usually recycle the energy. So like we go through one cycle and we produce an ATP and an ADP. It's try and die, I think. It's 2 and 3. So the ADP, die, gets recycled efficiently back into ATP. So unfortunately, what happens to us with long COVID or anybody with a metabolic syndrome, we produce AMP. And so what's wrong with us producing AMP is that AMP, in order to be recycled into ATP, requires substrates. That's why there is a delayed fatigue. Like in the moment, I am like feeling good. I have all those other hormones like cortisol, and I'm engaging with other people, and I don't even notice I'm pushing myself past my recommended threshold. And then I wake up the next day and I could hardly move, or I could hardly talk, or my symptoms are riding shotgun with me all day. So it goes back to what I want to talk about, is about energy is money. And if you can't make it, you can't spend it. And you can't borrow from yesterday, and you can't borrow from tomorrow. And that's like the prime example. So know that because you have a cellular injury and because you have defective cells, and you are constantly battling this war between your healthy cells and your zombie cells, that measurement of your recovery level gives you a guide that you can use in your own way to prevent triggering inflammation by not overexerting. So, and everybody's different. Everybody's thresholds are different, but that's when you begin to collect the data, study it, and then you create those trends over time that gets you the results that you want. And a year ago, I couldn't walk more than a quarter of a mile, and I'm up to 5 miles. And results are everything. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. It matters what you do and what you believe you're capable of doing, and you finding the right people who are going to support you and your efforts to get better. I have launched Longevity for the Long Haul, which is my business to support people with long COVID. I have created this podcast for free because I want people to get this information. And if they don't want my support in helping them figure these things out, I'm okay with that. And I've also put the resources that empowered me to learn the things I needed to learn about my body to restore my metabolic function. I still live every day with long COVID, and I know that there are things that are coming up in the future that will be a potential treatment option, but right now there's nothing. And I'm the only one who can have an impact on my health. And listening to the doctors and going through all the treatments, like I've had excellent treatment. I think I have had access to the best doctors in treatment because of who I was before I got sick. And so this is just an important tool that you can begin to use. And there's a link. I will put it in the show notes if you guys want to use my link, and then email me. And I offer like a subscription to where I will teach you. I'll give you 2 tutorials telling you about your HRV and how to use the Whoop in the way that it has worked most efficiently for myself. And then I will include you in my long COVID group, and you will be in a community of other people who are learning how to restore their HRV and improve those key factors of their life that ultimately improve their metabolic function, and their autonomic nervous system starts to regulate. And instead of living in fight or flight, we're going to train your parasympathetic nervous system to kind of help you rest and restore properly. And I'm just here if you need me. And I want to give you the hope and moving forward that everything is going to be okay. And once you understand more about what serves you, you can live a better life. Like, a chronic illness is a chronic illness. There is no cure at this point. There is no type of intervention that's available to any of us at this point. And nobody's really giving us any great advice to start navigating, So I'm here for the solutions. I know we have the problems. I don't identify with my symptoms. I live with my symptoms. And I make really good decisions moving forward to have a better day tomorrow. So this is Danny with Longevity for the Long Haul. And I hope this podcast shed a little bit of light. I hope it wasn't too confusing. But if you do have questions, feel free to reach out. You have my website, longevityforthelonghaul.com. You can also follow me on Instagram with Longevity for the Long Haul. And I'm just here for those people living with long COVID and looking for solutions. And we're going to be okay. It will get better. We just have to learn to use our body the way it was created. And that's what I'm here to do. To remind you and to support you and to educate you. Thanks.